Welcome to Music and Medicine. I'm your host, Dr. Moshe Lewis. Really delighted and ecstatic to be joined by my friend, legacy chef Vincent Moore. The work that you've been doing and just the special essence that you add to your food, which we're going to get a little bit chance to taste. Definitely something we appreciate as you continue on your tour and continuing with your career. Tell us about sort of how you found this as your calling.
Well, it's a legacy within my family, so that's a little hint of why I am called the legacy chef. And from a long background from New Orleans, and I come from a long history of chefs, going back to 1863, to be honestly. That's a culmination of all that in really creating the different styles and seasonings of the foods, and basically how I came to grasp of it was through my family, mainly my mom. I was a rebellious kid, so her way of discipline was either to sit with her and watch her favorite wonderful soap operas and stay awake when that's not going to be the case, so I chose to be the kitchen helper. And through that, through the stories, through the prep work, through all the teachings, I found out my own family legacy. That at those days they didn't have the culinary schools and didn't have all that. What they had was the gifts and talents, and everybody knew who was the person when it came to doing great cooking and creating great dishes. So fast forward, my grandfather was the #1 chef in New Orleans. He was known for the underground. This is the person who is it. And through that, my mom was one of the gatekeepers. He was the one that cooked everything for the whole family. And in those days, it was 11, 14 kids and more. You know how that is. And of course, if you messed up, that was the end of you in the family. So therefore, my mother never did. And she created so many different things that impressed my grandfather that literally he taught her all of the family secret recipes and also how to continue creating. That was what was passed on to me through that journey early on when I was around about 6 or 7. So it's never about the age, it's about the passion.
Sure, I love that. Never about the age. Talk to us about one thing having passion and a dream, and another trying to make it actually occur. What was that process like of actually sort of going commercial?
Well, we all have a start. Mine was actually in finances at the time, so I was a licensed advisor. I worked for a major financial firm, so I had the power suits and had all that stuff. But I remember a long time ago, my father pulled me aside, and he had health challenges as we were growing up. So my mom was always creating different types of food that he could eat, but it had to taste good. So I would watch those things, but as I thought about it, as I became more into my career in finances, I began to think about the legacy and the things of what I was brought up on. So therefore, my father's words, back to that, we kind of do that Southern times, we'll go back and come back. So literally what he said to me was, remember, you're going to be sitting sometime thinking about what you'd rather be doing at this point, and think about really a plan on how to get that done. And it doesn't matter whether you think it may or may not transpire, take that chance, take the leap and go do it. So for me, it was leaning back to my roots in the things I was connected with my parents, which were the food and everything else I was taught. So I said, you know what, with a business background and also wealth background, I said, let me go ahead and just create this. And that's what launched Taste the Craft. And what began was a journey of cooking and pairing the foods with different types of libations. But it soon, very quickly said to myself, well, let me go ahead and cook with this. So I cooked with all the different libations, as well as I was creating dishes that are well for the body. Because of my dad and his condition, I said, you know what, soulful food. At first it was soul food, but then I said, I'm gonna make this soulful food. And then I'm going to allow that to be cooked organically, taste good, and still be soulful. And that was my journey. And that started about 9 years ago, was when I started this. And a lot of my friends were the tasters and everything else, and they're like, I can't believe this tastes so good.
Sure.
So that's how my journey began, and I started creating new recipes. I did videos in home to be able to, for other people to be able to do it for themselves as well. So that's kind of how it just grew upon itself. I just tried whatever I thought and was inspired to do, and that's what I did. And so far, it's doing well for me. So.
Absolutely. What might be one of those elements if you pick sort of maybe one of your more favorite recipes where you may have switched something or changed around to make it more soulful but still, healthy?
Sure. Actually, one is kind of a family signature. It's even a rarity amongst us down in New Orleans, and that is cabbage. But I created a waterless cabbage. So it's organic cabbage, it's with potatoes, it's with different ingredients and seasoning, but everything's done in one pot and without water.
Wow.
So no boiling, nothing. It actually cooks itself through. And it's an amazing dish. It's 100%, and I like to say to people, what's my favorite word? Organic.
Right.
So that's what I create, and then people are so surprised because like, I've had this before, but it's got some kind of chicken, it's got some kind of meat, it's got something in it that is, protein based and used to be on four legs, but no longer. And I'm like, no, this is nothing but the organic. And so that's what I love to be able to do, and it creates the health in people. At the same time, it promotes family of, instead of going out to eat, here's how you can do it. So I'm not one of the types of, some of us, we're pretty protective of our recipes and things of that nature. I volunteer it out and allow people to be able to make it their own and elevate it and create that legacy within their families too, like I have. So
absolutely, which keeps the legacy going.
Yes.
One of the key things I want to tease out, since you did say it's your favorite word, because there are a lot of let's say controversy even sometimes about that word organic.
Yes.
What it fully means and what the process is. Just tease that out for us a little bit when you use it.
Sure. One of the things that I kind of keep it simple because I'm from knowledge is like, if it's something that you can grow and that it will expire, that's probably organic. And I don't mean within a week, I'm talking about within a few days. You should allow the freshness of those foods, and it goes back to farms and how it's processed. If you can get and know who it is growing and what that means, if it's different types of things that are added to foods to prolong them, that's probably where the controversy is, because they're like, you're trying to get it from there to the market so that it can last as long as it can. But it's all about local. If you can get the ingredients that are locally in the area, more than likely that's coming from a local farm, and there's no need for them to do that. And then as a chef, you get to know the people who are growing it, and you see how they process and what they do, and then now you feel comfortable about that fully being organic, if you're thinking that measure. And then it's also what you do. Once you get the ingredients as your chef, what are you putting into it? And so that's the harder part. I usually try to be as 100% as possible in getting to that. So I'll find those different items and I'll work with those local people to be able to do it. So it makes me feel a little proud when I can say, hey, this is organic. And they're like, well, then you get the question, well, how organic is it? And usually my answer is as good as I can possibly get it. And also, take a bite. And when they do that, that usually will take it to a whole other level. So.
Last question, give us one more, because that was an amazing concept you've been for a recipe. I wouldn't have never thought of that waterless cabbage, of another maybe signature or dish that you love and you're very proud of that's somewhat unique.
Oh yeah, I have at this point hundreds of different ones, because what I say to anyone as well as to myself every day, don't be afraid to try something new. And if you know what those items are, usually if you're doing the cooking as long as you have, you kind of have the memory taste in your mind and in your soul and heart, that when you're going to put those items together, it's going to have a certain taste in here. But once you actually do it, it's also a joy for you as well in creating that. And then you know when the smells and the aromas are coming out when you're making it, and you're like, ooh, if it tastes in your mind good to you and the senses are coming to you, it's going to be great.
Right.
How much more it will be for someone else.
Right.
Now, not everyone's pleased, but most of the times it's why they want to do it.
Right, right.
And so one of my cornerstones is that let's make it soulful, but make it taste good, but let's make it healthy.
Right, right, which is almost a requirement these days.
Yeah.
Just,
And
everybody's trying to live a little longer.
all
healthier.
three of those.
Yeah.
And I like to make it look good too on the plate as well, you know, so it's nice and pretty, you know, when you dig in and you get that wow effect. So it's pretty much all three of those and four of those things together.
Sure.
So, actually, I did make some
Sure.
that we'll probably be able to try
Sure.
at some point here. And that's what I actually brought the item
Sure.
that we spoke of.
Good, good. Excellent. Looking forward to it.
Yes.
Let's dig in.
Yes.
For sure.
Thank you
Thanks
so
much.
much.
Sure. Absolutely.